Hello, Internet. My name is Ayla Tesler-Mabe.
And I'm Sami Ghawi.
And here's something very cool. Sami has been my guitar teacher for years. And we wanted to make a video today to talk all about rhythm guitar, especially because Sami is a total master of rhythm guitar.
Thanks, Ayla.
You're welcome.
I love rhythm.
And speaking of which...
Yes. I have a course on Guitareo that's all about rhythm. I'm really proud of it. If you are having difficulty with rhythm, it's the course for you. You'll learn a whole bunch of rhythms, but you also learn how to internalize the groove and become a better rhythm guitarist. So check it out.
Yeah, basically all the lessons Sami ever taught me in a course for you, which is pretty amazing. And we wanted to make a video today to address 5 bad habits that a lot of people struggle with when they're trying to learn rhythm guitar. And we're gonna show you how you can deal with these bad habits and overcome them and take your playing to the next level. So what would you say the first mistake would be?
I would say not internalizing the groove of the song, because ultimately it's all about the groove of the song. You know, when you listen to a song that you really, really dig, you can feel your head bopping or, you know, your foot tapping, or, you know, you can connect to the intention of that song and the groove of that song. But then when you try to play it on guitar, if you're just starting off, you're more in your head trying to figure out what to do and you're not connecting. So you just have to focus on that internal metronome of the song, kind of like there's that count that's happening, and it just keeps on going.
So would you say there's a count and a pulse always going in your head while you're playing? Always,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So to give an example, maybe play a bit of rhythm guitar and vocalize what you'd be thinking in your head.
Sure. So let's say we're doing a basic Jim and Jack, which is, let's say on E major, Jim and Jack. You learned that in the course. It sounds like this with a pick. So this could be counted 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Now I'm going to stop. You could tell that my foot continues to go.
So the count's still going.
The count's still going.
And I'm still like, you know, bopping my head along to this groove that's not even being played. Yet we're still in time with each other. Still. And that's another point, you know, this still might feel a little abstract. I mean, we've talked about counting, but notice how we're actually physically moving to the groove. Yeah, I mean, when I'm playing rhythm guitar, I'm kind of always moving, and that's something that I've found is actually pointed out to me. I'll be playing. And people will be like, hey, I can see you're moving in time with it. Obviously, it's a little hard when you're talking at the same time. It's not ideal, but I'll stop talking. And like, even though it wasn't totally in time, it was in the pocket, you know? But I mean, especially like, put it in another context. Funk, where you really feel it.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Cool.
Fantastic.
So there's an example.
Like,
you know?
I connected with what you were doing right away. Like,
Yeah.
your intention was, this is the groove that I'm connecting to, and I'm gonna start to translate it right away and focus on what's happening and just just moving your hand and your whole entire body, dancing with that rhythm.
Totally. And you just have to find what works for you, you know? So that's something to take note of. Maybe record a video of you playing. If you're totally still, not moving at all, maybe see if you can add a bit of movement. Again, whatever feels natural. It's just about fluidity and being relaxed, which brings us to point 2.
Tensing up.
Don't do that.
Don't tense up. A lot of my students, when they're starting off, kind of are like, you know, they're tensing up their wrist and their arm. They're like, and, you know, like really, really focusing on what they're doing. But a lot of it in rhythm is the flow, right? And to have true flow, you can't be rigid. So you just kind of have to.
I love the hand movements.
The hand movements and the facial expressions. So you kind of just want to literally go with the flow and be loose about it, right? For example, let's say I'm just doing a down, up stroke. If I were tense, it gets louder. Now, if I intended that, that'd be cool, but even if I was loose but wanted to be loud.
You can still do it, but you're still very relaxed. Yeah, and I mean, there's so many reasons that's a good thing. First of all, it's so much easier to stay in the groove. And physically, it's hard to play any instrument when you're totally tensed up. Even if I get louder or softer, as you were saying, hopefully my wrist and my whole body will stay very relaxed the whole time.
And then you can also control, because if you're loose, you can work on the dynamics yourself, you know?
Yeah.
You have a lot more control over what you can do with the guitar.
Yeah, so then it's like the dynamics are up to you, and they're not dictated by your technique kind of only allowing you to play with one dynamic. So stay loose. And again, it could help to record a video of yourself and actually watch what you're doing. That's something I found so helpful when I was more at my beginner stages. I always recorded myself playing. And once you're aware of what you're looking for, I think you'll start to hear an improvement.
Definitely.
And yeah, that'll be correlated with what you're seeing in the video. There you go. So before we move on to the next point, we've been talking a lot about visual cues of how relaxed you are, but it's also good to just connect to how you feel. And of course, we've talked about being tense sort of in this area, forearm, elbow, joints and stuff. But it's very common for the tension to start here with how you're gripping the pick. Because once you tense up here, it's just biology, baby. Tension will, sort of move through this whole connective system in your body, something like that. I'm no expert. But yeah, that's something to look out for, how you're gripping your pick. And what's another physical cue you could think of?
Breathing.
Everyone does
Remember
it.
to breathe. Yeah, but a lot of people don't, actually.
Oh.
So let's say, for example,
Sorry to
you're
hear
playing, and I'm not breathing, and then you just kind of get red and get...
But speaking of, flow, keeping the breath going, that's something that also applies to keeping your rhythm hand moving along, for instance, keeping momentum going. Do you want to talk a little more about that?
Sure. Think of it this way. When you're playing rhythm, or you're playing guitar in general, you've got your rhythm hand, your playing hand that's doing something, and then your fretting hand is doing something over here, and you kind of have to balance both of those things. So what a lot of people do is they're focusing on what's happening in the fretting hand. So let's say, for example, I'm going between E major and A minor, and I want to change in rhythm. So I'm playing a Jim and Jack, and I'm supposed to move within the rhythm, but what a lot of students do is this. When your right hand actually should just be going on. Even if you're not playing anything here, if this... Notice what happens. I'm gonna change, and even if I make a mistake on the chord change, the right hand is gonna continue. Check this out. You're still connected to the rhythm.
And obviously it's not a rule that you always need to fill all space. Because I mean, obviously that's a whole other rhythm guitar topic, space, that's an important thing. But I think in order to get there, it's great to start with this approach, just to make sure you really know how to always stay in the groove and internalize it. This is just another way to help you build your ability to always connect to that part of the music.
I mean, and one thing to focus on is not focusing on it. That's kind of counterintuitive, but you want to get to the point where your right hand is just doing something and you're not thinking about it anymore.
Yeah.
And one thing that you mentioned in, I think in the Guitareo method and in some other courses, lessons that you've done online, is visualizing the chord that you're going to go to before going to it. So let's say, for example, I'm playing A minor to E major.
The famous song.
The famous song. A minor to E major.
World famous.
And now I want to change to E major. I'm going to visualize going there prior. And I'm going to visualize going down to A minor. Right hand hasn't changed. Playing hand. So yeah, there are other things that you can do as well, like use one of those beats in your strum to move while the right hand keeps on going. So just kind of focus on, keep that right hand moving on. It doesn't matter if you make mistakes. Practice, just keep moving your playing hand.
Obviously, when we think rhythm guitar, we think, what makes the rhythm go? Well, our strumming hand, because we were just talking about how the strumming hand should always be moving, and that's true. But it's important to also work on what's going on here with your fretting hand. What do I mean by that, Sami?
You want your strings and your chord to ring out. You want to make sure that you're putting your fingers in the right place, and each string, for example, E major, they're ringing out, so when you're actually playing, the chord sounds full, as opposed to, let's say I'm not playing the chord properly. Still sounds good, but it sounds more percussive than, full.
Which I think is not your intention here, right? Like if you're gonna play percussively, you wanna make sure that's your intention. Yeah, so Sami, do you wanna maybe give an example of what it could sound like if the chords just are not ringing out?
Sure. So let's say the chord progression is C major, A minor, F, and then G.
Love that one.
Let's just say, and it sounds like this. We're gonna stick with the Jim and Jack.
So that's what it ideally will sound like.
Now, let's make the chords not so great.
I'd say there's a difference in quality between those two
there's
editions.
a difference. It's not fulfilling, you know? If the whole point of music and song is to express that intention here, oh, this is a happy, wonderful, big chord, C major, yes, A minor, oh, you know, it kind of sounds a little more sad than, you know, a C major. And now F, there's the hope chord. It's nice and positive. And then G, oh, we're gonna go home, and now we're back home at C. Now, if that's the emotional intention of what you're playing, but if you don't actually play the chords right in the sense of have them ring out, then that emotional intention doesn't come across.
Yeah.
Like this doesn't sound like anything really. Even if the right hand or the playing hand is going, like it's there, but it just
Not quite right.
Sounds dirty.
Sure it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think a good way to work on that, and this is something we talk about a lot in the Guitareo method and just in a lot of teaching we do in general. Anytime you learn a chord or you want to work on a chord, you go through a string at a time. Sorry, I was distracted by a hair on my leg. And you want to make sure every string is ringing out. And if anything isn't ringing out, you'll immediately be able to tell what the problem is. Oh, the G string. Well, looks like my finger is not putting enough pressure on the fret. Let's try again. Ah, that's better. Okay. That'll help you troubleshoot. It's a great way to practice and internalize good chord playing, you know, build muscle memory.
And once that sounds good, then you can focus on your playing hand and go ahead. Aha! Beautiful.
All right, so our fifth and final bad habit, I'm gonna call myself out here. Not thinking enough about the pick you're using and not planning ahead. For example, I planned to come to this shoot today. I brought my pedal board. I brought my acoustic guitar. I brought my electric guitar. I didn't even think about checking to see if I had the right picks with me. So as a result, I'm using a 0.85 millimeter pick. What are you using?
I'm using 0.46 or 0.45, which is a
Millimeters,
much thinner pick.
Yeah, so what we're talking about here is the thickness of the pick. And obviously there are other variables that go into what makes a pick what it is. But thickness and thinness, especially as it pertains to rhythm guitar, so essential.
Absolutely.
Because I've been finding this whole video, I haven't been saying it, but in my head I've been thinking, it doesn't sound like my best playing because I'm using a pick that's a lot thicker, there's a lot more rigidity, and that doesn't always translate well with rhythm guitar playing. Like I'm finding that it's just a little bit more sloppy than I'd want it to be. So I'm gonna play the Jim and Jack strumming pattern. We've been talking about it a lot. It's one you teach in your rhythm course, among many others. But it's a great one to demonstrate. I'm gonna play it with this pick, then I'm gonna politely borrow your pick, and let's just compare. And I'll actually explain how it feels different to use one versus the other. Let's switch.
Feels lighter.
That sounds a lot better. It feels a lot better.
It probably feels a lot better.
My playing in this video would have been so much better had I had the right pick with me.
So I would never play an acoustic guitar with a pick this thick.
Yeah.
Like ever.
I would never want that.
No, unless I was doing something like power chords and alternate picking.
Yeah, or maybe more lead type playing, you know?
Yeah. What you said about it feels better. That's the main thing. You want your entire body to kind of just be grooving and be loose with your rhythm. And if you're holding your pick too tight or your pick is too thick, you're just not going to connect with the intention or the perfect intention of what you're trying to communicate playing rhythm. So if I wanted to emulate what I would be doing on there, I'd have to loosen my grip so much. But then by loosening the grip too much, I might actually lose the pick.
Which, before we started filming, I dropped the pick 2 times in a row. That's embarrassing.
Yeah. So one thing that you can do is have a bunch of different picks in your pick toolbox.
Which is like what I usually do, but I don't always do. So it's a bad habit that I need to work on because I know that my playing would have been way better in this video if I had the right pick. And yeah, it's just something to think about. If this is something you've never thought about before, take a look at the picks you have and maybe consider building a little more of an arsenal. Again, 0.46. This is a pretty thin pick. You can see how flexible it is. This is a great pick for rhythm guitar.
It is.
It's one I have myself that I like using. And then the one there, that's kind of like a middle range.
I would say this is harder than middle.
Okay, on the higher end of
this
a
isn't,
big pick.
This isn't like a really, I mean, I'm not a lead guitarist, but I can imagine that a lot of lead guitarists use much thicker picks.
Yeah, I mean, the ones I usually use are 1.14 millimeters. So that's why, to me, that's like upper end of mid-range, let's say. So again, it's important to consider what you're playing, what tools you're using. And yeah, pick thickness is not something that people always think about. It's not something I thought about that much until I started working with you as a student. And then it made everything make sense because I found rhythm guitar pretty physically awkward to play a lot of the time because I was using my
The wrong pick?
thick purple Tortex picks. Wrong for the context, you know? And it changed everything when I started using a pick like this. All right, so there are 5 bad habits that you could try to overcome if you want to take your rhythm guitar playing to the next level. These are all things that Sami has taught me over the years, and they really did take my playing to the next level.
And we elaborate a lot more in the course as well, so be sure to check that out.
His beautiful, stunning course.
I am proud of it. And proud of you.
That's so nice. So, feel free to leave a comment down below of which of these tips you found the most helpful. And any other tips you have that we didn't cover in this video. Let's get a discussion going and hope you have a splendid day.